So which running training shoe is the best for marathon pace efforts? Well, there are plenty of them out there on the market, and today I'm comparing the 4 that I currently have in my rotation and showcasing which one is the best for the job. What is up guys, Andy Forrest Team Runner here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking all about the best training shoe I have for marathon pace work. So it's very much marathon training season. Of course, that means one thing: marathon pace goal runs and marathon pace efforts will be dropping into our plans, if they're not already, very, very soon. So today I'm going to be going through the 4 shoes that I have in my rotation that really cover these areas and showcase which one I think is the best. There are some that come very close, but there's one that just edges it out there. And today we're going to be going through the pros and cons of each of these 4 shoes. So if you're excited for today's video, guys, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly run content, and we'll kickstart with the Novablast. Let's jump right into this Novablast version 3, a shoe that I absolutely love and have been using for a range of runs, but we'll be talking today very much about their sweet spots, where they can and can't run, and where really their weaknesses lie. And that is going to be indicated by the brand new sliding scale in visual format. So yes, I've actually been bothered to put something together that's a little bit more visual rather than me just using my hands. Hopefully you guys will appreciate that. In terms of the green, that means where I feel it really does come alive. The yellow is what it can do, but I don't feel it's best at, and the blue is just not an area I would even consider taking the shoe into. And as you can see, moderate and marathon pace I feel is this shoe's sweet spot, and just either side of that, easy pace and then half marathon pace is kind of, yeah, it can go to those ranges, but I just wouldn't take this shoe any further. And I think that is where the problem lies with this shoe. Not that I have anything against the shoe, as you guys know, I absolutely love it, and it very much can do those marathon pace efforts, and that's exactly what today's video is about, homing in on that marathon pace area. But sometimes what you feel is, with this shoe, you want the sweet spot to be right in the middle of something where it can also run slightly slower and slightly faster, because sometimes we have bad days and sometimes we have good days, and on those good days sometimes those paces just creep up a notch, and I just don't feel, when I feel really good on a marathon day, that this is a shoe that I can potentially push a tiny bit harder. Not advocating that we should steer away from our marathon pace, but I'm just saying sometimes I am a believer in making those good days count. And when that's the case, this isn't a shoe that I necessarily feel like I can really kind of go to that next step in. So although this has been a fantastic upgrade from 1 and 2, I feel like the range in this one is just slightly too narrow. And let's jump straight into the Asics Magic Speed 2, the latest shoe in my running shoe lineup, and an absolute beast of a shoe that I really, really love. Having now done a moderate run in it, a workout and a long run, I feel like I've got a good gauge as to where this shoe lies. And that gauge really does lie in that top end work. As you can see, I feel it's got, well, you'll see as the video progresses, it's got the joint highest kind of good range that I would consider paces at this shoe. Moderate is kind of a, yeah, okay, I would do moderate in it, but I've got better shoes. Same with the VO2 max sort of style intervals, the real fast stuff. I'd save that usually for the streak fly, but this one could do it. But easy pace is definitely a no-go. And so why don't I feel like this one could be the best in my rotation? Well, it's simply a case of, it's just slightly on the firmer side. It's slightly on the stiff side with the plate. I feel that lends itself much better to those faster paces. I feel this shoe is at its best when it comes alive at faster interval paces. So realistically, kind of almost that half marathon, 10K and 5K effort, I feel is its absolute sweet spot. I do feel it is also really good at marathon pace, but what I noticed when I did my moderate effort, and which was about a 70-minute moderate run, is just because it is a bit firmer and just because it is a bit stiffer, my feet weren't quite as fresh, shall we say, as in some of the other shoes that I've been running in. And I just feel, once again, like I said with the Novablast, you kind of want a good range either side of that marathon pace. And so if you're having a bad day in this case and you are a little bit slower, I do feel like this thing could beat your feet up a little bit. Again, with the long run being time on feet there for like 2 hours, it felt really good, especially as I ramped it up towards the end of the long run. But again, my feet were a little bit sort of more throbby, a little bit more achy than what they would have been in other shoes. So I feel those marathon pace efforts, although yep, it can handle the pace, the shoe isn't quite as forgiving, and I think I would save this one for that faster end of the spectrum. So then we have the Zoom Fly 5. And what a great shoe it's been for me during my training, especially through London, and will be through this block as well. Again, check out the graph here, the sliding scale. You will see it sits slap bang in the middle of where I need it to be. The range is a lot smaller, and that really does come down to the weight of the shoe, but It covers that marathon moderate and then the half marathon pace really, really well. I've done such a good amount of work in this shoe, well over 100 miles, and I've got to say this thing is an old trusty faithful. But as I just alluded to, I just feel like the weight in this shoe just lets it down a little bit too much. It is way, way heavier than any of the other shoes that I've mentioned in this. Now, for me, it's not a massive issue. I'm going to be honest with you. It is an issue, but it's not a massive one. For a lot of you guys, it is an absolute game changer and a deal breaker. Cruising in this shoe is absolutely great. I love it when I get up to speed. I don't even notice the shoe on foot, and you feel so smooth through the transition, the plate in it, the curve, just everything. It feels like the Vaporfly, but just in a bit of a heavier package. And that's what I like about it, because the Vaporfly version 1 is my absolute favorite racing shoe, along with the Alphafly. So those two version 1, so those two shoes are great, and that's probably why I love this shoe so much. Plus I have a real soft spot for the original Zoom Flight as well. It was my first plated shoe ever. And although it wasn't carbon, it was still a great sensation. Love that rocker feeling, and it is very reminiscent of that shoe too. But as I said, it just comes down to the weight. I think that's the one thing holding this shoe back, and if it could shave a fair few grams, it would probably take the top spot in this one. But just because of that, I can't quite give this one the nod, although it's a very, very close second. And that leaves the Endorphin Speed 3, which for me, out of these 4 shoes, is probably the best that I have at marathon pace effort, and that's thanks to the changes that they've made in the version 1 and 2 update to version 3. Rightly or wrongly, obviously some people like them, some people don't. I'm not really fussed either way. It's just changed the way I use the shoe. So if you check out that sliding scale now, it is the joint biggest, sort of what I would class as love to race in a multitude of paces, along with the magic speed, but it's just notched down one in the perfect area for this type of work. And actually, someone mentioned it in one of the videos recently. I think it was on the magic speed video. They said, when you're describing the magic speed, it sounds a little bit more like the Endorphin Speed 1 and 2, and that's exactly it. So like now, with the 10K and 5K pace, I would use the magic speed over this shoe, whereas in previous versions, I go for the speed, because the edge has been taken off this shoe with the updates they've made. But what they've done is they've turned it into much more of a cruiser, and that sits over this marathon pace zone really flipping well. For me, again, this shoe can cover such a multitude of bases. I love Saucony shoes anyway. For me, they were brand of the year last year. They just work for me so well. The speed tech, the foam, the Power MPB foam, everything about this shoe, the comfort of the upper is just second to none. And so what I find with this against the Zoom Flight is the weight works in its favor. I love the Zoom Flight and I love this one, but because it's lighter, I feel mentally better when I'm running, if that makes sense. I feel like there's nothing on my feet at all, and I'm just being able to cruise, turn over nicely. This shoe actually keeps my cadence up nice and quick. I feel like I'm turning over faster in this one than a lot of the other shoes. And again, with something that I'm trying to work on, which is increasing my cadence, that again works in this shoe's favor. So I've got to say, lightweight package combined with the design of this shoe means that this thing has to take the crown. Now, as you'll have noticed with today's video, these are just either training partners or training shoes. Shoes geared for training only, not the racing shoes. What you will find if you do follow me on Strava is over this training block, I probably will do a couple of workouts here and there sprinkled in some plated shoes. Like the other day, I did my workout, it wasn't a marathon pace one, it's faster, but I did it in the Endorphin Pro 3 just because I absolutely love that shoe. And for me, there's a time and a place to use plated shoes. I try and just use them once a week and use other shoes for the rest of the time. Sometimes it's 2 times a week, depending on what shoes I'm testing. But overall, I do try and use the training partners where I can. So what I want to hear from you guys is, do you prefer to use carbon plated racing shoes for these marathon pace efforts to get used to the racing shoes you're going to be running in? Or do you prefer to use these training partner shoes? For me, I sit somewhere in the middle. I love to do the training partner shoes all the way up towards the end, and then for the last 2 or 3 big workouts, I chuck the racing shoes on just to get my body used to it and sort of mentally check in and feel what it's going to be like on race day. So a good mix and match works for me, but I'd love to hear your opinions. And do you agree with me out of these 4 shoes? Do you think the speed wins? Or if you've got another shoe that you feel does it better, let me know in the comments below. That's it for today's video, guys. I appreciate you sticking around to the end. If you enjoyed it, please do give the video a like, share it with your friends, subscribe for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.